And welcome to this webinar on developing the athlete. Never waste a warm-up. I'm your host, Steve Whelan, over at mytenniscoaching.com. I hope you're all well. I hope you're all enjoying your tennis, your coaching, and you are enjoying being a member of My Tennis Coaching Academy. I'm really excited about this presentation, this webinar. It's an area that I don't really touch upon a lot, but I plan on going forwards on doing more things like this, on developing the athlete. And we're going to really look at the warm-up of a session and the importance of the warm-up. And I'm going to share some quite rough stats for you to start off with. We're going to talk about the traditional warm-up, and then I'm going to share some practices or games or activities that I've been doing over the past maybe 2 years with my players to make the warm more engaging, but also, like the title says there, not to waste that time. So let's just get straight into it. So let's rethink the classic warm-up. So I couldn't quite find, and I tried to YouTube search, and I Googled search tennis players doing laps of the tennis court, but I couldn't find it. So that tells me that most coaches don't want to put it out there because they know how bad it is. But the general warm-up at most tennis clubs is the players arrive and the coach says, okay, a couple of laps of the court, and then come back in and we'll get going. Such an old school way of thinking. Okay, let's get physically ready. Let's do a few laps around the court. One, it's highly dangerous because there's so many things to trip over as they go around the court. They can fall over the benches, the net surrounds, the fencing, each other. The mentality was, okay, well, let's just get the body warm. And if you ever speak to a tennis coach, or even a tennis player, and say, okay, why do we warm up? Oh, we warm up our muscles. We warm up so we don't get any injuries. To a degree, that's true. But with kids, their muscles probably are not going to tear. They're not going to pull a muscle as such because they're like elastic anyway. So what should the warm-up do? The warm-up should set the tempo and the standard of the lesson. And I always compare the warm-up to the first 10-15 minutes of a school lesson. If that's a 10-15 minutes of disruption and chaos, then the session is generally disruption and chaos in a negative way. We will talk about chaos potentially in a positive way. Coaches do it because it's easy to do. They don't have to do too much. It gets the players to run around, and that's their warm. Then they might do some dynamic stretching, which is better than just doing laps. But the issue with this type of warm is, one, it's not very engaging. Two, it's not very fun. And three, we're not really developing anything. You might get a little bit of cardio in there, but even with a couple of laps, you're not really going to develop any skill physically, mentally. I've just put together a few numbers here, and these are very rough, very crude numbers. So apologies for the maths, but I just really want to make a point in terms of how important this time is. Because one of the biggest pushbacks and challenges I get from tennis coaches is, oh, I don't have the time. I don't have the time to do the ecological approach. I don't have the time to ask questions. I've only got an hour. But then tennis coaches are quite happy to waste time with a really bad warm-up. So if you're looking at a traditional tennis coach qualification, they say normally 0 to 10 minutes, but let's say 15, because I very much include the ABC, the physical development part of a session, as part of the warm-up, because most traditional lessons, you have your physical warm-up, then you do your body and ball or your coordination. So I'm going to include that into my physical warm-up. So let's say it's about 15 minutes. So that's 15 minutes per week. So if you would just do a couple of laps and a couple of sort of bog standard throwing and catching games and a little bit of movement, maybe some dynamic stretches, that's 15 minutes. It's not a lot of time. But if you're having one lesson a week, that's a whole hour per month. If you have that over the year, it's 12 hours per year. Now, of course, some programs won't run 50 weeks, maybe 42 weeks. But again, these are very rough, crude numbers. So that's 12 hours per year. Within that 12 hours, let's say a player has one go at the activity every 60 seconds. It's roughly about 780 goes per year. And let's say they do 40 movements. So throw, catch, a sidestep, a shuffle step is a movement. 40 movements per minute. That's 31,200 movements per year. So that's 31,200 opportunities to teach and develop some type of skill. So you can see how that 5, 10, 15 minutes of the start of the session, we blow it away as coaches, but over time, it's actually quite a lot. It's a great opportunity to develop the skill. And this is the first of a few in the series, I think, about warm-ups. And this one's more about developing the physical warm-up. So I always think about, okay, I'm going to start as a mean to go on. And I have a few intentions of my warm-ups, a few things that I want to tick off in those first 10, 15 minutes of the session. So these are my aims of the warm-up. I want to develop the athlete. I want to develop those physical skills, the movement skills, but mainly the agility, balance, coordination, and speed. Now, a lot of clubs will separate these things, but again, if you've been a part of my channel for a long time, you know I don't like decoupling stuff. I don't like just working on agility, because I can work on agility with balance, coordination, and speed. I can work on all of them at the same time. Why should I isolate just a speed exercise? We know tennis is a multi-dimensional, multi-dynamic sport where players have to have agility, balance, coordination, and speed together. So we shouldn't isolate it. So I'm looking to develop the complete athlete. One thing that I will say on here, it has to be relevant to tennis. It's not what I call fake agility. What's fake agility? So getting players to run around cones. To me, that's fake. We don't run around cones in tennis. Ladders. I've used ladders forever. Like, I don't use ladders no more. Why? Because we don't use ladders on a tennis court. So we can develop agility, balance, coordination, and speed by doing things like ladders and running around cones. But for me, it's fake. So again, everything I do now, I'm trying to make sure it relates to the game. The movement patterns are somewhat similar to the movements or the demands of the game of tennis. So develop the athlete in as close to realistic situation as possible. I want to develop the head and heart. So not only do I want to warm up the physical and the mental side of the players, sorry, not only the physical, but also the mental. So my warm-ups have to include some type of problem solving. There's a problem to solve with their physical movement. Has to be competitive. Okay, there has to be a cause and effect. There has to be a winning and losing element. There has to be some type of pressure or challenge management. So the player has to be under some type of challenge, deal with a problem in a competitive situation, and develop the skills to meet the demands of the game. So I'm asking quite a lot of the player. Why do I want so much so quick? Because again, I'm setting the standard, I'm setting the intensity, I'm setting the work rate quite early, and I'm not wasting the time. If I've only got 50, if I've only got 50 minutes, 45 minutes with a top session, I've got to maximize the time. I can't just waste time by doing bog standard warm-ups because I'm following some formulaic linear lesson plan. But it's got to be fun. It has to be fun. Doing laps is not fun. Doing shuttle sprints generally is not fun. You can make it fun by making it competitive and put some type of team element into it, but it's got to be fun. Again, with all the stuff that you'll find on the academy, I want everything to be fun, and I want all the learning, the developing the athlete, developing the head and heart. I want that all stuff hidden within the fun games. So what I'm going to show you now is 8 practices. So 8 practices that I do. I'm going to talk through each one, and I've got a little video clip of each one as well. I'm just going to mute each video because you don't hear me talking. So this first one is called Beat the Hoop. So the player has a series of traffic cones, and on top of the traffic cone, they have a smaller cone, and they've got 3 on the outside here, and they've got 2 and another 2 here. So what the player has to do is, I will spin the hoop. The player can spin the hoop if they want, but as soon as I spin the hoop, the player has to flip over the cones, and they've got to get around all the cones for the hoop stops. So you can do this at any level. Again, with all these practices, you can do them with tots, you can do them with adults, you can do them with red, orange, green, performance, non-performance, hit and giggle players, schools, whatever. You can do it in private lessons. You can do it in group lessons. So how I do this in a group lesson, one player might do it, and then the teammates take turns and spins, and they just rotate round. So everything that I show you today, you can adapt and do. So that's the game. So as you see here, the player has to turn it around. So you got agility, you got balance, you got coordination, you got dexterity where he's turning the cones over. You got some pressure with the hoop. Yeah, so he's looking at it, and I think he just gets it. So again, talk about a dynamic warm-up. So imagine doing this first thing in. Like, you gotta be fully engaged here to actually get round. So again, just a real fun little exercise of engaging the athlete. You got agility in there, you got dynamic balance because they're moving, you've got the coordination because he's got to really have the dexterity to turn the cone over under challenge. You've got the problem solving, you've got the pressure or the challenge management as well. So that one's called Beat the Hoop, one of my faves. So the next one's more of a footwork one. So obviously these are two coaches on a coach qualification. So this is a bit more dynamic movement. And this is about developing effective footwork for players. So what you've got is you've got two hoops. Each player has a ball. Each player starts diagonal. So the player in black will start on this side. The player in green will start on this side. You bounce the ball down and then you move across and then you catch your partner's ball and you try and keep it moving. And if we look at it again in terms of developing the athlete, you got agility, you got balance, you got coordination, you got speed as well. In terms of developing the head and heart, yeah, you've got, it's competitive because you can do it. So first one to drop the ball loses, or you can do teams against each other as well. You've got problem solving because they've got to work out the right speed and height to bounce the ball to give their partner a chance to catch it. You've got pressure and challenge because you have to do a lot of things there in a short amount of distance. And the way this exercise develops, which unfortunately you don't see it in the clip, if they get 6 or 8 in a row, you move the hoops one rotation and you make the space bigger. And what you'll see happen is the footwork patterns will change. So in this one here, if I play it again, you'll see that the players are mainly shuffle stepping. But as you go into a bigger space, you'll see more of a cross and sort of running steps sort of being brought into it as well. So again, another fun little practice you can bring in as a warm-up. This one you've probably seen online. It's been killed a little bit to death, but it's noughts and crosses or tic-tac-toe. So you got teams of players, or it's one against each other. The players have to try and get 3 in a row, connect 3. It is meant to be a warm-up. This is an under 12 county squad taking their time. But speed, agility, it's problem solving. Not so, not so much speed there. Yeah, and you probably hear me off camera going, yeah, you've got to be quick in here. But you can see that the players are sort of trying to work it out. And I've done this with adults, and the adults loved it. The adults loved it because, again, it's getting them moving. It's speed, agility, balance, coordination, problem solving in a real fun, dynamic setting. And again, with all these little practices, you can literally do them with any level, any stage, any level, any age. From a coach's point of view, yes, it takes a bit of time to set up, but once you do it once or twice, you can just shout to the players, okay, tic-tac-toe or noughts and crosses, let's set the courts up. And the players can set them up themselves. But yeah, it's just starting the lesson off with fun. It's starting the lesson off with, yes, I'm developing skill. I'm developing head and heart as well. So tic-tac-toe. I will put the sign up for this one. So this one, again, head, shoulders, knees, and cone. So you got the controller. You've got the players competing against each other. You've got a cone in the middle. So the coach will shout out a part of the body. Player has to touch it. And when they shout cone, the players have to grab the cone as quick as possible. So again, just a really good, fun little warm up, and like you have a little group of 5 here. So you got the controller, you got the 4 players competing. You have 1 round. They can all rotate round as well. Any age or stage, and I'll probably say that a lot today. So again, I'm going to show a couple more now. Hopefully, get the idea in terms of how we can make these warm ups fun. And with a lot of these practices, these might be your blue lessons. So blue stage or top stage sessions, these may be just your main theme or your main practice designs for tots as well, because again, they're developing very key physical and mental skills. And if you manipulate it and you differentiate it, you can use it with any age and stage. So we got a single player here. Again, relatively simple. Player has to hit the balloon straight up. They then have to run over, flip the cone over, and then run back. So she flips the cone over and doesn't quite make it. So again, what you'll find with a lot of these is they don't work at the start because the player's got to work out how to do it. So what you would find if I had the whole lesson here, you'd see that she does it 4 to 5 times. And then she starts to work out how to hit the balloon higher, because if she hits it higher, it gives her a bit more time. And then once she has a bit of success, then you can say, okay, well, every time you catch it now, you've got to move the cone further away. And we're just creating the environment here with these fun warm-ups. Again, just imagine coming onto your court, and it's the first thing you do. It's going to say, it's really going to set the tone and the standard of the lesson. And you'll see that I use balloons quite a lot, especially with the next couple of ones. So again, same player, different day. So it's a bit more challenging now. So it's a bit like a relay race. So she's got to keep the ball on her racket, but she's got to keep the balloon in the air as well. So that complex coordination skill. Again, you can do it as singles or in teams. Now, I was interested with the player here because I just said you got to balance the ball. So she instinctively, well, I say instinctively, she probably thought about it. She stuck it on the neck of the racket so it doesn't move, which is fine because again, this is quite challenging. So as you see, she completes the challenge quite quickly. So then you may suggest, okay, well, to upskill it is a word I use a lot. Let's level up. Level up's a good word as well. Let's level up. Let's maybe try and put the ball on the racket strings now, so the ball's moving. So it just adds a bit more challenge. If players can't balance a ball, just balance a cone. A cone's quite straightforward and quite easy to balance as well. But that word level up is huge because again, kids love playing computer games. So with all my practices, whether they be warm up or racket skills, it's always a case of, okay, once we can achieve the outcome, let's level up. Let's try and make the level a little bit more challenging. I've got a few more to show you. So again, these are my favorite ones. So again, another balloon. So player, again, could work independently. They could be in pairs where they take it in turns. Player's got a balloon. He's got two cones. He's got to hit the balloon up and then transfer the ball from one cone to the other. So from red to blue, hit the balloon again and go from blue to red. He's got to then hit the balloon up and then transfer it. So again, as you see, really challenging because he's got multiple things going on here. So we talk about it all the time, don't we? Like tennis is a multitasking sport. So we're trying to get the player to multitask. And when you first try this, it's messy, it's chaotic. That's okay. It's fun because what you'll see is the player starts to get better as they do it. Obviously, using balloons outside might be a bit of a challenge. But if you have a nice summer's day, you might be able to use a bit more balloons. I got one more. So same player, same session, actually. This is like the next level up. So now he's got 2 balloons and relatively simple. If you've probably seen this on Instagram, if you follow me at my tennis coaching, is okay, he's got to keep both balloons in the air. So you can touch one balloon at a time, but he's got to keep both in the air. There you go. And we're counting how many times you can keep it up. So again, he's got speed, he's got agility, he's got coordination, he's got problem solving, he's got pressure or challenge. and it's fun. So if you compare this to running around the court 4 to 5 times, it's night and day. Like, and if you're doing this 10-15 minutes a session, you're developing so many skills that are transferable into tennis, because he's dealing with lots of challenge here. He's dealing with multiple things at once. He's got to use both sides of his body. He's got to move. He's got to use perception and his action. So the perception action coupling's there as well, because he's really got to read situations, and his perception is definitely linked to his action, which is fantastic. So there we go. So just again, 8 little practices that you can try out. Just a few things to remember, which we talked about before. Never waste a warm-up. It's to me, it's a cardinal sin for coaches who just do laps or even dynamic stretches. Obviously, if you've got adults and stuff, you've got to get them to do dynamic stretches. If you're working with competitive players, I think it's always good to go through a physical warm-up routine so they then carry it over when they go home and play matches. But if you're hitting giggles, let's get involved. Let's just make it fun and engaging. But remember, try and develop the athlete. So try and develop agility, balance, coordination, and speed all at the same time. Don't isolate it. Don't just do shuttle runs. Do a shuttle run, but put something in where they have to develop some coordination, balance, and speed. No fake movements. Don't be teaching fake tennis or fake physical skills, you should say in this one. Always try and develop the head and heart as well. So even in these fun warm-ups, try and bring in a degree of problem solving, make it competitive. There has to be a degree of pressure or challenge management as well. It has to be a little bit challenging at the start, develop the skill, and then level up the challenge. Again, what you'll find with these is the kids are so creative in terms of how they can level up themselves, and they can make it a bit more challenging themselves without us even instructing them. But they've got to be fun. They have to be fun. Because if they're not fun, then the kids aren't going to come back. And hopefully what I've shown you today, people may look at them, as we said all the time, you may look at these and think, okay, well, but where's the skill? The skill is what's on the screen now. You're developing all these things. And the great thing is you can do that in 10-15 minutes, then get into the racket stuff quite quick. A lot of those activities you can do with the racket. You can do a lot of them, apart from the ones where you're turning cones over. But the balloon one, you can do both with 2 rackets. You can do it with 2 rackets, no problem. Obviously, if you're not transferring the ball. But I've done it in the past as well, where the player's got to hit the balloon for a racket and they've got to transfer the ball to the other hand. So you can make them as complex as possible. But I definitely believe the quicker we can get the racket involved, the better as well, because that's what the kids come for. The kids come for tennis. And there we have it. So hopefully you enjoyed that very short webinar, and you now understand the importance of the warm-up. Please leave down below any comments or questions you may have. Head over to the coach forum and join the discussion, or even start the discussion in there. What you found about this webinar, if you enjoyed it, what elements did you enjoy? And more importantly, let us know if you've actually tried any of these games out, and leave that in the comments as well. Until next time, enjoy the academy, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye-bye.